of people doing me wrong, constantly, over and over and over again, dealing with my family, dealing with my father, dealing with men and their bull. I remember waking up in the hospital.
At 41, Fantasia Barrino is speaking out and sending a serious warning about Clive Davis and Diddy. From Clive's negative influence over many female artists,
for the purposes of financial gain for those who have access to her estate, including Clive Davis.
To struggling with losing control over her image after she signed with J Records.
The foreclosure, it's just so many things that I had to deal with, me almost losing my whole career and not having management and lawyers and everybody who's saying they had my back, nobody taking care of me.
And even the industry shutting her out, thanks to Diddy's involvement. There's more to this. Let's dive in. Fantasia Barrino had the kind of story people love. A single mom from North Carolina who dropped out of high school, survived tough odds, and shocked the country with her voice on American Idol.
The winner of American Idol 2004 is Fantasia Barrino.
At 19, she was a star. But behind that win was an industry she didn't understand, and nobody really warned her what fame would cost. What they didn't say was that American Idol was only the start of her problems. The show had a system. Winners were sent straight to major labels, and Fantasia ended up at J Records under Clive Davis. There was no real guidance, no handbook, no one explaining that winning a TV contest and surviving the music business were two very different battles. When asked how he prepares young artists for fame, Clive once said, "I don't get involved in their personal lives." Looking back, that sounds cold. Fantasia later said she didn't have a team that cared about her, just about what she could earn. Adding to that, she was somewhat illiterate. She wished someone had told her not to rush into buying certain cars, to double-check her accountant, to watch her money closely.
All of those things that I bury, when I step into Celi's shoes, they come back up. Education wasn't big in our home. Singing was.
Everyone had their own agenda. She was a teenager thrown into an adult world. And also in that system, connected to Clive's circle, was Sean Diddy Combs, a man who would later face serious federal accusations. For context, former Danity Kane singer Dawn Richard gave testimony saying Diddy once made a disturbing warning about what happens when people disobey him. Richard, who rose to fame under his Bad Boy Records label in the early 2000s, said he suggested people could go missing for going against him. On May 16, 2025, she testified that she took the comment as a threat, that people could face deadly consequences for disappointing or angering him.
A former member of the pop group Danity Kane returned to the witness stand Monday in Sean Diddy Combs' federal and racketeering trial on Monday, and a warning to viewers: some may find the details in this report disturbing. Singer Dawn Richard.
Clive and Diddy were powerful figures in the industry machine. Fantasia was just one of the young voices caught in it. It wasn't only about money. She said she felt abandoned. The people who started with her were gone. That kind of isolation sounds similar to stories from other artists around Clive's circle. Now, with Diddy's name tied to federal courtrooms and his past connections being re-examined, Fantasia's lowest moments are being looked at differently. Was she another casualty of the system, or one of the few who made it out alive? The truth is, Fantasia wasn't just young when she became famous. She was unprotected. At 19, she had no mentor guiding her through contracts, no financial education, and no one breaking down the deals she was signing or the people she was trusting. The wrong people could see her vulnerability. Not long after American Idol, legal trouble started. Her own father sued her for defamation over her memoir. Instead of protection, she was facing him in court.
Your own family, and it does seem like, as we watched on your reality show, that your family might have played a big part in your breakdown. You even said that they were taking advantage of you at one point.
Then came label politics. J Records released her first album, Free Yourself.
Go ahead and free yourself. Go ahead and free yourself.
It did well. Platinum sales. Grammy nominations. But in music, success can be complicated. Her second album struggled because the industry had already shifted focus to the next rising star. The same executives who once praised her started stepping back. Her money disappeared more than once. And it went beyond finances. The industry started shaping her story. They wanted her grateful, not honest. They wanted her to celebrate her journey without talking about the system. They wanted her to ignore how illiteracy made her easy to exploit. When she refused to water down her truth, doors quietly closed. Radio said her songs were too gospel for R&B. Music videos were shelved for being too real. Interviews slowed because she wouldn't stick to approved answers. The message was clear: play along or be replaced. For a young black woman in a business run mostly by older white men, replacement was always close. That's when the mental pressure really started. When Fantasia played Celie in The Color Purple, she was reliving parts of her own pain.
The going away present I've been needing.
Hey, watch
You
yourself.
better handle your woman.
Celie is a character silenced and pushed aside by the people who should have protected her. When Fantasia was asked to return for the 2023 film version, she almost turned it down. Back in 2007, when she played Celie on Broadway, she said she carried that pain home every night. No one taught her how to step out of the role when the curtain closed. The only person who really helped her separate herself from the character was Taraji P. Henson. She was carrying years of unresolved trauma.
I can feel her now. She will not be here.
Industry pressure, and personal loss. The more you look at it, the more it echoes what happened to Whitney Houston. Both started in gospel. Both were pushed into fame at a young age. Both were connected to Clive Davis. Both struggled under intense pressure. One didn't survive. So when Fantasia says, "Everybody who started with me is gone," she means it. She was one of the few still standing. With Sean Diddy Combs now facing court proceedings and past industry ties being questioned, it raises a hard question. How many voices were silenced before they could speak? When Fantasia walked into J Records after winning American Idol, she thought it was her big break. Instead, she stepped into Clive Davis's system. His formula was to find raw talent, polish it, package it, and sell it. Fantasia was a single black mother from North Carolina who sang gospel and survived poverty and illiteracy. That wasn't the story they wanted to market. She later said there were things they pushed her to do that made her uncomfortable. She didn't want to fake anything. From the start, they tried to reshape her sound, her image, her story. They wanted club hits and glamour. They wanted a product, not full honesty. But Fantasia pushed back. She was emotional, spiritual, and real. The industry wasn't ready for that.
Going on in your world?
I had to take it back even to when I stepped on the Idol stage. You know, I caught so much drama about being a young mom, not having my high school diploma, the way I spoke, me taking off my shoes. There was always something wrong with me.
When she refused to fit their mold, the support slowly faded. The same executive known for building careers seemed to pull back from hers. Not because she couldn't sing, not because she couldn't sell records, but because she wouldn't pretend to be someone else. On August 9th, 2010, Fantasia made headlines for the wrong reasons. What people didn't see was the storm building inside her for years. The executives were quiet. The managers were distant. The cameras were gone. It was just her, sitting in a closet with sleeping pills and a bottle of beer. She later said, "I didn't care if I woke up. I just wanted to go to sleep, and if I didn't wake up, I was okay with that." 3 days before, she had locked herself in a guest room. She wasn't eating. She wasn't talking. She was shutting down, and no one really noticed. At the same time, tabloids were dragging her over an alleged affair with a married man. Paparazzi camped outside her house. But that scandal wasn't the root. It was just the spark. The deeper pain had been there for years. Fantasia later revealed she wrote goodbye letters to her daughter Zion, her brothers, her manager, her mother, and her best friend. She placed them where they'd be found. She asked everyone to leave. She sat in her closet for hours, staring at herself. She took the pills and meant it. When she woke up in the hospital, hooked to IVs, she was angry she survived.
I remember waking up in the hospital. It didn't work. I'm still here in this hellhole, still here with all the drama going on.
The news spread fast. What wasn't discussed was how quickly the industry moved to manage the story. Public image was handled, but the person wasn't. She was released on the condition she attend therapy. For the first time in years, she stopped pretending. But the pressure didn't ease. Within days, she was back in front of cameras. An album was coming out. Tours were booked. The label depended on her. She was told to rest, but she knew the machine wouldn't wait. Her breakdown wasn't just from anywhere. It came while she was managed inside a system shaped by Clive Davis and connected to powerful figures like Diddy. What she went through felt like a warning. Fantasia's story also fits a larger pattern tied to Clive's legacy. Artists like Whitney Houston, Deborah Cox, Jennifer Hudson, and Leona Lewis all came through his system. Powerful voices, big promises, heavy control. The pattern seemed simple: to find talent, promise the world, control every detail, and replace them if they break or resist. Whitney's family has said Clive focused more on market image than her health as she struggled with addiction.
Strictly for the purposes of financial gain for those who have access to her estate, including Clive Davis.
Including Clive Davis.
Clive Davis.
He was the one trying to bring her back, though, at the time of prior to her death, right?
Fuck him. He needed her back.
Oh, yeah.
He needed her back, but he needed her back and under his control.
When she needed rehab, business plans kept moving. Studio time was booked. Press releases were drafted. The machine didn't slow down. The same approach that later left Fantasia feeling unsupported had already hurt Whitney. As long as the money flowed, the system kept running, often ignoring the human cost behind the spotlight. Then there's Jennifer Hudson, another American Idol alum with a huge voice and obvious talent. But her journey turned out very different from Fantasia's. After Jennifer's career took off, especially after her Oscar-winning role in Dreamgirls, everything around her changed almost overnight.
Say that in English.
Nationwide distribution of our version of One Night Only.
She suddenly had the full backing of the industry. The marketing budgets were there. The press attention was there. The resources, the promotion, and the careful planning that helped shape long careers were all in place. That level of support showed how powerful the system around Clive Davis could be when it focused on one artist. Jennifer was given opportunities, strong positioning, and a clear path forward at a time when Fantasia was struggling to hold on to momentum. From the outside, it looked like two singers from the same background were simply having different career outcomes. But the deeper you look, the more it feels like strategy. Besides guiding artists one at a time, Clive was shaping a whole landscape, often putting them in quiet competition with each other. Instead of building a sense of unity among talented women who could have supported each other, the industry created a hierarchy. Some artists were promoted heavily. Others were expected to fight for smaller opportunities. All of them were working hard, but not all of them were given the same tools. The comparisons were constant, sometimes subtle, sometimes obvious. And while the artists carried the pressure and the emotional toll, the system itself kept profiting from every one of them. That's what made the situation so difficult. All along, it was about positioning, timing, and how much support the industry decided to give at any given moment. Jennifer Hudson benefited from that full support at a critical point in her career. Fantasia didn't always get the same backing when she needed it most, and that difference changed everything. Deborah Cox is another example of how this system worked. She had a powerful voice. one that many people believed could stand beside the greatest singers of her generation. Her style was rooted in strong R&B and soul traditions, and she focused on real vocals and emotional delivery rather than chasing every new trend.
Last night I slept alone.
But the music industry changes fast. Sounds shift. Marketing strategies change. Executives start looking for whatever feels new in the moment. When Deborah's authentic style no longer matched what labels believed was commercially hot, her presence in the spotlight began to fade because audiences suddenly rejected her voice. The business moved its attention somewhere else. The same thing happened to Leona Lewis, who rose to fame after winning the X Factor. At first, she received major promotion and strong industry backing. Her debut era was huge, and she was positioned as a global star.
You didn't know this. You mean everything quickly. I'm learning to love it.
But when market trends shifted and new priorities appeared, that strong push slowed down. The spotlight moved, and like many artists before her, she was left to navigate the industry without the same level of support she once had. What made all this harder was the way the industry quietly encouraged rivalry. Stories were planted about who was more talented, who sold more, who was easier to work with. These comparisons kept artists focused on each other instead of looking at the bigger system shaping all their careers. The truth was that many of them were facing the same pressures, just in different forms. Fantasia's struggles were signs of a system built to use talent. The difference is that Fantasia survived long enough to see the pattern clearly. She lived through it, understood it, and eventually began speaking about it openly, something many others never had the chance to do. By the time Fantasia Barrino reached 40, her priorities had changed. She wasn't chasing chart positions anymore. She was chasing peace of mind. For the first time in years, she started speaking openly, without trying to protect the industry or soften her experiences. During red carpets and press tours for The Color Purple, she was reclaiming her own story. Years earlier, playing Celie on stage had taken such an emotional toll that she almost didn't return to the role. She knew it would force her to face painful memories again. However, the film gave her another level of recognition.
I was afraid to play Celie, but I'm glad I did. Because I kept saying if I don't win an award, the awards that I will win is the people who will watch.
At first, she turned the film down. She said no more than once. She understood exactly how heavy that role could be. But this time, her life was different. She had a stronger support system. She had therapy. She had family around her. Most importantly, she was making the decision on her own terms, not under pressure from anyone else. For the first time in her career, she spoke honestly about how broken parts of the industry had been. She didn't pretend everything was fine. She didn't act grateful for things that had hurt her. She simply told the truth as she saw it. When people called her return a comeback, she pushed back on that idea. In her mind, she never disappeared. She had been fighting, healing, and rebuilding the whole time. She didn't need to name names or accuse anyone directly. The scars, the struggles, and the fact that she was still standing said enough on their own. By 2025, conversations in the music world had shifted again, especially with Sean Diddy Combs facing a federal trial and renewed attention being placed on powerful figures in the industry. Old stories were being re-examined. People began asking harder questions about contracts, control, and what really happened behind the scenes of fame. Fantasia's survival started to mean something bigger in that context. She had climbed out of one of the darkest periods of her life and rebuilt from the ground up, not because she wanted to prove anything to the industry, but because she had no other choice. There was no safety net waiting for her, no powerful system rushing to fix her life. She had to do it herself, step by step. What the industry often expects in situations like hers is another tragedy, another headline, another story that can be explained away quickly and forgotten. That's the pattern people are used to seeing. But this time, the story didn't end that way. Fantasia lived. She recovered. She kept performing. She kept speaking. She also lived long enough to see powerful people questioned in public,